What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Sixers check-in where we're going to break down, analyze everything we have learned about the 2024 Philadelphia 76ers. Joining us, he is Pat Bernard. What's going on, Pat?
What's going on, man? I am pumped up to talk Sixers hoops. The first time in about a week, I'm not stressed talking Sixers, so I can't wait to talk some Sixer hoop with you fine gentlemen.
All righty. And then he is Sean Bernard. Go give him a follow on X at Sean_Bernard1. What's good, Sean?
Yeah, feels good to be back chopping up with the fellas here. And I think I'm a little bit more optimistic at this point in the season than I really expected to be, and regarding this team as a whole. So excited to peel back all the layers there and talk into things, but feeling good right now.
I think in general, this is going to be a pretty positive show. This team has consistently tried to keep me in, I think, in some fun ways. And then last but not least, he is Tiago. Give him a follow on X at TiagoPHL. What's good, Tiago?
What's going on, Chris? It feels like we have like 3 seasons in one. You almost forgot James Harden started the season with the Sixers, and now we're in the Buddy Hield era. So it's just this wild roller coaster of names. Your typical Daryl Morey roster construction coming into shape. But I'm excited to talk about a very, very good team.
Yeah. There's a lot to be excited about as they get ready for this playoff push. We're going to go through some questions. Guys, if you're watching us live, wherever you're watching, please be sure to like. Please be sure to comment your thoughts on this Sixers squad. Let's jump right in. We'll start with you, Tiago. Grading Nick Nurse A to F through 54 games for the Sixers.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that question before the podcast, and I'll lead off with the grade and try to justify where I grade it. So I think my grade as a whole is a solid B to B plus, but I'll land in a B. I think there are a lot of positives, right? So from a positive standpoint, Sixers under Nick Nurse, you just see the motion. You see how more fluid the offense looks under Nick Nurse compared to Doc Rivers is. I mean, they went from 28th in offensive distance traveled under Doc Rivers to the top 10. So they've had a lot of motion to their offense. And that's important because you have to manufacture easy offense with this roster. You don't have a James Harden. Now you have Joel Embiid, who is hurt. So I think that has been a huge positive. They're 4th in rim looks. They were 16th last year. But at the same time, there has been some negatives in my perspective. So I think Nick Nurse has been fantastic at manufacturing. But at the same time, I think he's a little bit rigid and continues to be a little bit rigid on just rotations. So, for instance, like when they had a full menu, why is Marcus Morris playing 17 minutes a game? That was a question I've always asked myself when he was out there. I thought that in the games that he couldn't shoot, he was a major liability. You know, I'm sure we'll talk about this player, right? Tobias Harris, 34 minutes a game, Tobias Harris, every single night, closing games. Sometimes when it's clearly obvious you shouldn't even be out there anymore. So I think there's some good with the bad, but overall, it's highly positive. The Sixers are one of the better teams in the NBA, and it's been a huge reason for that.
I'm going to piggyback off of that because that kind of goes into my grade. I'm higher. I'm like more of an A minus. And I'll throw it right back to you, Tiago, because I think my praise is giving Ricky Council the fourth an opportunity to thrive, which he has over the last week. Do you think that's going to maintain, or do you foresee his minutes decreasing as this team gets healthier?
Yeah, I honestly see his minutes going down. And I think a big function of that is the fact, and we'll talk about him, like Tobias Harris needs to play 34 minutes a game. I think if Tobias Harris in particular was the kind of player who would accept a lesser role, maybe at 28, 29 minutes, then you could fit Ricky Council for 7, 8, 9 minutes. But when you have Batum, you have Tobias, when you're going to have Melton back and those guys, you're just not going to have enough minutes on the court if you're going to get players like that 30 to 35 minutes a game. So, yeah, I do see eventually his minutes going down. And to your point, Chris, like, what we've seen from Ricky Council has been exciting and NBA stuff. It's not like fake stuff out there. So, yeah.
The one thing I'll give, maybe I'm biased, I don't know, but like the entertainment value for this 2024 Sixers squad, I give props to Nick Nurse for that as well, for how bad it was with Doc. Sean, what's your grade?
Yeah, I locked it in as a B plus here. That I think for the most part, I've been really positive about Nick Nurse. There's a ton that I've liked from the X's and O's standpoint and the tactical standpoint. It's night and day versus what they've looked like the past few years. There's still some areas that I think have been a little more limited than I'd like to see, but I think more of that blame falls on personnel and stuff like that. I'm meaning like 3-point volume and some of just like the shot creation looks, or sometimes I would say a bit too rigid as far as like what the style of play is. But defensively, I would say I've been the most impressed with this team. That some of these creative zones, some of the way that they shift like every single stoppage is really advanced and impressive stuff that we have not seen from a Sixers team. And then I guess my points that I did take off is still there is a little bit more lack of creativity from the lineup standpoint than I expected or was hoping for, especially coming from the Doc Rivers experience before this. That I think some of it has been Nick Nurse's hands forced out of necessity when there are the shorthanded lineups. Even the Ricky Council thing, I think, had more to do with the opportunity opening up more than Nick Nurse creating it for Ricky specifically. But he's taking it and running with it, so I hope that continues. And overall, very excited about what Nick Nurse has brought to this team, and do think on a night-to-night basis that the Sixers will have the advantage from a head coaching standpoint, which is really nice to feel.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Pat?
I'm again in the same canoe with you guys. I got to give it a B, just with the fact that again I've been preaching this all year long that this is to me Joel Embiid's best rebounding team that I've seen come through here. Again, these guys are grabbing boards, and that's been most important. The way that these guys are scoring in transition has been really fun to watch. Just to me, though, I mean, again, the way these guys are rotating with Joel Embiid, or when now he's really being tested with the fact that this is where I would have gave him an A, but now that with Joel Embiid, this is where he's really being getting tested. With the fact that you're getting guys like Ricky Council, and the only reason why Ricky Council is in this and getting this opportunity, like Sean said, is because of the injuries, and you really had nowhere else to go, so you just took a shot in the dark and let this guy, get some, create his own minutes. Now, I would like to see him get Taquan Smith a little bit more playing time. I mean, the kid came in, was a little bit of a spark, and we only got that little bit of a sample size out of him. I would like to see him get some more playing time, see what else he can do from the perimeter. But all like the whole grand scheme of things, I will give him a B for what I've seen so far. And again, guys are creating their shots, like Buddy Hield and so forth. So far, so good.
Absolutely.
Chris, just one more point. Sorry. Just you can't understate the fact that the Sixers are a decent to good defensive team, and they have like 2 good defensive players on the entire roster. Yeah. Like that is Nick Nurse's DNA. Like the trapping, the creating turnovers, the getting hands on passing lanes. It's really impressive, and it's been a trademark for him in Toronto. He's brought that here. The Sixers are one of the most active passing lane teams in the NBA. They generate turnovers, steals, blocks, deflections. So that's Nick Nurse 101. And like as a whole, when you think about what their offense can be, full strength, that's the path to a championship, right? Your defense just hangs on there for dear life. So he's definitely brought that to the Sixers.
Yeah, leading the league in steals, and that's with a decent chunk of the season being played without DeAnthony Melton. That he's missed the last 17 games for this team, and they're still leading the pack as far as steals per game, which is pretty impressive stuff.
It's incredible. Are we all good? Should we move on to the next one?
Let's do it.
All right. Next question on deck here. Who has been the Sixers' most underrated player this season? We'll throw it in reverse. I guess I'll go with this one. For me, it's got to be Nick Batum. I think that's an obvious choice. Like when this guy has played, he's been great. I think stats don't give you everything that Nick Batum does for the Sixers. Like he brings you everything you are wanting out of PJ Tucker and then some. 46.7% from 3 this season, 44.2% from 3 in the catch and shoot, 25 for 47 from the corners. That's 53% from the corners, man. That's incredible stuff for Joel Embiid. Going further, 1.56 points per possession on spot ups, 99th percentile, man. And he's also been solid in clutch situations with a plus minus of 2.2. The problem is he just hasn't been healthy enough. But when he's out there, like this is a guy that needs to be re-signed this offseason for Joel Embiid moving forward. He's a pitch perfect fit. If he's healthy come playoff time, this is the ideal piece for Joel Embiid to dominate come playoff time. But for me, it's Nick Batum. I'll throw it to you next, Pat.
Well, listen, I'll give you guys the other layouts, but I'll go DeAnthony Milton. I think him being his 3-point game has stepped up majorly. Again, I think he was like maybe low 30s percentage from the from the perimeter. It's gotten up to like 60% from the perimeter. When healthy, he's definitely a viable piece. And there's other times where he's found himself cutting to the rim, just becoming a lot better of a player. You can use him in several different roles. But yeah, definitely, he's stepped up from the perimeter, much improved guy. So again, a lot better from what we got talent of him. So again, when he comes back healthy, he's going to be a major player, and he could shoot along. With Tyrese Maxey can have someone to kick out to other than Buddy Hield, and again gives that defense to keep the opposing defenses on their heels by having a D'Anthony Milton coming off the bench or having him start.
What is before I throw it to Sean, like what's our general vibe with Kyle Lowry and D'Anthony Melton and those minutes? Any gut feeling?
I'll say I have zero interest in Kyle Lowry starting. I've seen some of those whispers. I want no part of that. I'm okay with Kyle Lowry joining this team, and depending on what he has left in the tank, I can see a world where he is a potential upgrade over the Pat Bev option there. We'll see. I am really concerned that he might be just straight up cooked. But the bottom line is I think I'd be much more comfortable with either Buddy Hield or D'Anthony Melton in that fifth starting role. I personally would prefer Buddy Hield, but can see either option there. I think both are significantly ahead of Lowry in my mind.
Absolutely. All right, Sean, who is your most underrated player?
Yeah, I bounced back and forth here between Ricky Council IV, but I think I'm going to lock it in with my guy Paul Reed here. Paul Reed, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster this year, but I think he's been much more just a net positive than kind of the perception of him is. That it was a rough start to the season. He did not take the strides forward that was hoped after that new deal, after having the hope that he could kind of transition this guy playing next to Joel Embiid to these things. Did not do any of those things or take those steps. But especially lately, without Joel Embiid, he's absolutely stepped up and been that guy. Moments like that Nuggets game, which I believe he ended with like 30 points in that one. That Cavs win last week where he had 18 and 12 and had that game-winning block at the end. He's been really good filling in time, and he's been much more as kind of an innings eater for this team than I expected. That I really looked at Paul Reed as the best case scenario for Paul Reed is as a changeup off the bench, as a guy that can be a change of pace, a different style than Joel Embiid. Lately, he's looking like a guy that might be able to compete for a starting center role on different teams around the NBA. That's a great thing to see. So shout out Paul Reed. I think he's been better than the perception of him has been.
Paul Reed for underrated to Sean. What about you, Tiago?
Chris, I have the exact same name because I think there's a narrative out there that the Sixers are in big trouble with Paul Reed on the court and need another starting level center. And that's just not the actual reality. Like the Sixers average 125 points per 100 possessions offensive with Reed on the court. League average is 15, I think, or something around there. I could be wrong. Or 13. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Like Sean said, there are things that he has not improved on. I actually think his rebounding is kind of taking a backseat a little bit this year. I thought last year, the playoffs, he was fantastic rebounding. That has kind of fallen off, and you need him to rebound. Again, last year he played with James Harden. James Harden was feeding him looks at the rim, lobs, dunks, and it just made it look like this guy was a world beater. This year, they don't have James Harden. So it's not his fault that he's not getting those looks. So he's getting more like those fadeaway jumpers in the paint that look horrendous. But at the same time, he's hit on 11 threes this year. That's like triple his career total. So when you zoom out on Paul Reed, it's way more positive than negative. And when Joel was healthy, they had this thing going when Reed and Maxey would start the fourth quarter, and they would run teams off the court. They were running good teams off the court to start the quarter because Maxey and Reed are a great combination, and you go against scrubs, like true scrubs, and they were just dominating. So people just need to calm down on Paul Reed a little bit. They're more than fine at the backup spot. That's actually a very good contract. Very, very good contract.
Yeah. And I know I've mentioned this before, but one of the reasons I'm particularly pro Paul Reed from a style standpoint is we've been through the cycle of guys that were just worse versions of Joel Embiid out there. The Greg Monroes, the Dwight Howards, the Amir Johnsons, all these names of guys that essentially played the Joel Embiid role, but worse. Paul Reed is like a drastically different basketball player than Joel Embiid, that he's athletic, he's quick, he's running and gunning. That's a good change of pace to have, is like when you're rotating and when this team's in its full construct, to go from Embiid, who is MVP of the league and does everything that he does, to a guy that just wants to get up and down the floor, create havoc and madness. That's a good change to have, and I think like a good contrast to have on a team.
Yep, absolutely. We got some comments here. Tech Quentin says underrated is B-ball Paul, especially when Joel Embiid has been out. I can't believe how good B-ball Paul has been lately with Buddy Hield in the pick and roll. They have looked like they've been playing together all season. So that's definitely something really exciting to watch. Prince says Joel Embiid is his underrated player for the Sixers. Historic season, didn't think we could become even better than last year. 1,000%. We have Nick chiming in saying Quentin knows ball. Might have been Pat for me if he was still here. Nick says, yeah, Sean, talk that talk out the mud. Mitch says Paul Reed has been better with Buddy Hield, and Paul Reed for president of the United States.
Well, I might have to double sign that last comment. I don't know if things are trending. I may actually have to endorse that.
I don't know if I can take this comment down. That's the best comment of the week. I love it. Let's roll on to we all hit most underrated player. Throw it in reverse. Who is the most overrated player? Let's throw it to you. Tiago, who's your most
me?
Player?
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
go ahead,
I
man.
missed that. Yeah. I mean, it has to be said. It has to be said because, like, this is a championship level team with championship level aspirations, and teams that are serious about winning championships aren't gassing up their fifth best player or fourth best player like he is a core function of the now and the future. And that's Tobias Harris. I think the perception versus the reality that exists between Tobias, the team, and fans who follow this game very closely, it's like oceans apart, right? You have the fans who lived 6 years of this and can just see the end of the storyline. And then you have this franchise who just swears by this player as indispensable in every facet of the game, from playing 35 minutes a line, playing in clutch time of games, to just being like propped up as an all-star option on the website. It's beyond mind-boggling, the stuff that you see from Tobias Harris, who is a good player. So I want to make that clear. Like, you talk about Tobias Harris, I'm not talking about a complete scrub and a guy who shouldn't be playing the NBA. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is a team with championship level aspirations, right? You see a guy like Buddy Hield come in here, who I think has his flaws, but he comes in and he knows exactly his role with the team. I'm going to get up here, shoot up threes, pretend to play defense, but give and take, do what I do best in the NBA. I was looking up some Tobias Harris numbers before the podcast, right? 86th in spot-up points. There are 85 players in the league who have more spot-up points than Tobias Harris. What do you think your role is within the Sixers when the playoff come? You think you're going to get isolation possessions and do your pull-up game and be effective and efficient? Like, that's just not going to happen. So he's never leaning to that part of his game ever with the Sixers, and now more than ever, 86th. And he's like a fantastic spot-up shooter. Like, he's one of the best spot-up shooters by efficiency in NBA. So long story short, I think that's kind of where it starts. I know there's 6 years of frustration on this, but, I mean, we have to get real. Like, that's what it's going to come down to, is this guy is going to have to deliver at some point, and I just don't see it. So,
and he's shooting the fewest three-point attempts of his career since the 2015-16 season. Like, it felt like we took such a stride forward with the shot volume in recent years with Tobias, with just the decision making. And this year, I think there's been so much regression in that. By the way, he's still making $40 million.
It's crazy, and that the contract is a huge piece of that. And there's actually a lot of chatter, especially on social media, about him returning.
Yes,
because on a lesser contract. Tiago, that 1,000% cannot happen. That is an absolute must not
regardless of price.
if that happens, that means your free agent plan, off-season plan, cap space plan didn't entirely materialize, and that would be the ultimate like slap in the face, right? Because you go from dreaming about whatever Paul George, whoever's out there, to we're just gonna bring back Tobias Harris and run it back with these guys, and that's just like unacceptable because he should have been out here like 2 years ago. I mean, that's just the way this should have been. So yeah, we have to literally wait and see with Tobias, and we've seen this movie play out a million times.
Yeah, Tobias should have been out 2 years ago. Buddy Hield should have been added 2 years ago. That's really what this is. Quentin says we'll see what Buddy Hield does when Embiid comes back. Prince says, "Oh brother, that could not happen." And Quentin says, "Toby Max 2.0." Oh my god. But yeah, Sean. I mean, obviously mine's Tobias Harris. I mean, we talked about in the post-game shows, and I'm serious when I say this. Like Ricky Council IV looks every bit what I want out of Tobias Harris. He's relentless attacking. He's putting up threes. He's getting to the rim. His confidence, the him fighting through screens and loose balls and rebounding, everything. I love out of Ricky Council IV. Sean, who's your guy? Who's the most overrated Sixer?
Yeah, I do think Tobias is the answer here. I tried to think outside the box. So I'll roll a little different, and I'm going to throw it at Mo Bamba here.
Oh my god!
I mean, I'll start by saying Mo Bamba seems like an awesome teammate. Good hype man on the bench. Seems like a good human being. I have no hate toward Mo Bamba specifically, but on a basketball court, he's one of the more frustrating players that I've seen. Just the sometimes just disengagement, him being 7 foot and struggling to rebound the ball. It's very frustrating that he just should be so much more better than he is. That there should be such a basic role of set screens, roll. The pick and pop jumper is legit. Like the jump shot's good. And then the lack of shot blocking at times, there'll be moments where people finish around him that just have no business even getting a shot off there. So very much underwhelmed by the Mo Bamba experience. I understand that's the reputation that's been going back years now. This shouldn't be a huge surprise, but I'm definitely just disappointed. The more I watch, sometimes he just should be better than he is, and for that reason, I'll throw him as my overrated pick.
That's a great one. That's a good one. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about him in a little bit.
He plays like he's 6 foot tall. It's incredible. You're like you're 7 foot tall. Will you just stand up? Just stand up and grab the rebound.
Lift your hands up. Yeah.
He's had every opportunity as well to like show something.
Right.
And he literally hurts the team. He doesn't give you anything. And it's frustrating too, because like I see it. Like you can like theorize like why he would be a really good fit on the Sixers. Just
and the worst part is there are those like 3-minute bursts where you're like, there it is. Like that's the dude. That's what we're looking for. And then it's gone for the rest of the game after that. But very frustrating.
Quinn says Sean knows basketball. Mitch is in the house saying he's the worst player on the Sixers. Pat, who is your most overrated player on the Sixers?
You know, I'm just trying to go outside the lines here. I'm not trying to be in the same canoe as you gentlemen. But I mean, you guys have me leave me no choice. I mean, it's really like everyone else is gone that they already got rid of. So, again, I try to stick up for the guy at times. I try to say he's a good role model in the locker room. But, you know, all those, you know, when it comes to X's and O's, there's stretches where this guy plays 30 minutes a game and then he only gives you like 6 buckets. And it's just like, it's not good enough. And, you know, how can you be, you know, and we're always going back to that expectation of he's the X factor. He's the X factor. He's no longer an X factor. You got your X factor in Ricky Council. So, no, Tobias, again, just getting paid all that money. He knows he's not worth all that money. And again, like, there's times where he can get aggressive in the paint, and then you thinking, you know, okay, this, you know, he's going to put us on a little bit of a run. And then there's other times, man, he's just hanging the back of a milk carton, and it's just like, where's that guy? I need him. This is where, you know, this whole game is relying on Maxey. I need someone else to come through, and he's not that guy. So for me, it's got to be Tobias Harris. It's got to be shipped out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Anybody have any other? Go ahead.
One more honorary mention. This player no longer is here. You may lose some fans for this one, Chris, but a vote for Pat Beverly. Wow.
Yes, yes. I didn't know we could touch the untouchable. I mean, they're gone, but because I was going to go there.
I love it. He
Yeah,
is
he has
so
a great
overrated
vibe,
by
yeah.
the fans. I love that comment.
They were not good offensive with him on the court.
And
They
can
were
I-
not good. I know he's
Can,
some
can I,
nice.
can I give another honorable mention?
Yeah.
Yeah, I might lose the whole city of Philly. Marcus Morris. Marcus
Yeah.
Morris. He might be like because he's like the beloved Philly guy, so it's like he has like these spurs out, where he looked like he was okay, and then other times it's just like,
Yeah, man.
go on the bench, my man. We don't no longer need you.
It's like it's death taxes and Sixers fans overvaluing their players. Like some of these guys,
Overvaluing the bench.
yeah, it's just what it is. But
I mean, there was a lot of people, very upset, last 2 weeks ago. The Korkmaz is gone. Come on,
let's roll
you
on.
couldn't find his jersey out of Foreman Mills.
Let's roll on to our next question. What has been the biggest surprise for the Sixers this season? I'll lead us off. For me, it's easily Buddy Hield's playmaking. I did not see this coming whatsoever. I mean, you guys watch way more NBA than I do, but he has surpassed my expectations when it comes to creating and playmaking, man. Like, yeah, obviously, like the last few games, what we have seen probably are unsustainable, especially when Embiid returns. But my God, 7.5 assists per game, 28.9 assist percentage, more than double his previous seasons, 30 assists the last 4 games. And then we get to shooting the rock, 12.5 3-pointers per game at 45%, 40 plus from the corners. It's just not how well he shoots. It's the gravity he has. It's the effortless release, the quick release, the everything you're wanting out of JJ Redick on the current Sixers. Like that's what we're going to get when Embiid gets healthy. And it's just absolutely the kind of guy you want on this court when Joel gets double or triple teamed in the mid-range area on the perimeter with the time running out. Yeah, like we said, like it's just wild to me that this guy, it took this long for him to be in the Sixers uniform. But that has me wildly excited for everything. I know we're talking about this season, but moving forward, he offers a big picture going forward. But Pat, what is your biggest surprise this Sixers season?
Kelly Oubre Jr., who's been a real surprise. Again, I thought this past when they picked him up last summer, I thought, okay, to me, I didn't know how much of a perfect fit he was going to be. Again, a guy who's getting a bulk of the rebounds for you. A guy has a nice little mid-range game. Just a complete player for you. A piece that you kind of needed to go along, grabbing boards again, kind of being that complementary piece to Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. One of a bright future piece moving along. So again, this was a lot of people like to give Daryl Morey a lot of criticism. Well, this is the one you can't say he messed up on because this has been, again, the perfect fit for the 76ers team moving forward. Just a kid, and he's fearless. He's fearless in the paint of grabbing boards, getting offensive boards, defensive boards. He's been a really good piece in addition to the 76ers.
What about you, Sean?
I'm rolling with Tyrese Maxey's continued growth. That I think there was a part of me coming into the season that as great as he's been, how much he's blown by every expectation, I had a little bit of concern that he was going to hit a wall, that there was going to be at least some struggles this year, particularly after the James Harden trade where it was you're now thrown into the number 2 guy next to Joel Embiid. First off, him answering the questions as a playmaker and proving that he could be a guy that's capable of running the offense, making the right decisions, make these pick and roll reads in a way that we had not seen from him in past years was really impressive to me. And then we're starting to see of late without Joel Embiid, him have to be the guy on this team. And he's definitely struggled. There's definitely been some growing moments with it. For the most part, I can't be more impressed by the way that he has answered all questions, continued to develop, and stick on this linear path really to superstardom and the way that he continues to get better. I mean, this is the same dude that yesterday, Kevin Durant naming 6 players that he believes the face of the league could be, and Tyrese Maxey cracking the list. We're talking about him growing to that level of kind of national recognition. So it's been very cool to just watch from start to finish, see a little bit of the growing pains this year. And I overall am bought in that in the right construct of this team, and if the pieces are right, that Tyrese Maxey very well could be that number 2 option for this Sixers team, which I wasn't confident about going into this season.
All right. What about you, Tiago?
Yeah, I think Maxey has been fantastic. Big picture has been huge for the Sixers' success this year. For me, actually, my biggest surprise is, and there was a comment made on the chat about, I don't know who actually made it, but you actually pulled it up a few minutes ago, Chris, is actually Joel Embiid, because to be honest, I didn't foresee another leap into his game.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote an article about this a couple months ago, and I did a research about like just putting into context his season. So he's having a Will Chamberlain level season from a per 36 minute basis, right? You envision Will Chamberlain scoring 100 points a game back in the 60s. He's that player. He's just not playing those same minutes, but he's playing against elite competition on a nightly basis. I never foresaw this level of dominance in Joel Embiid's game, being where he was right last year, which is an MVP level player. I think that leap that he's made this year, primarily in that mid-range area, it's been huge in his ability to unlock offense off the jump shot. And really, if you try to step up in that area with him, he's going to take you right off the dribble and crush you. So I think that part of his game has been massive for the Sixers this year. I mean, obviously it's being Joel Embiid, but it was just a surprise. I started watching, I'm like, wow, this guy is playing at a historic level. So
Yeah, I think for the most part, we were excited to see Maxey take that next step under Nick Nurse. And we were kind of questioning whether or not the fit with Embiid, with Nurse's play style would work. And my God, the way he's unlocked Embiid at the elbow has been incredible. Get healthy, big guy. Yep. William says, need to extend Buddy Hield. Absolutely. Question, if you have to re-sign somebody, who would it be, Melton or Oubre? Anybody have thoughts on that?
For me, this is Melton pretty comfortably here. That I do like the size of Oubre, him as like a legitimate high-level athlete on this team, but there's still, we've seen some of the bad versions of Kelly Oubre materialize lately. That we've seen some of the.
You were expecting that, though.
Yeah, we knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming. But go ahead, Tiago.
So without Embiid, it's really bad. And I agree with Pat. Like, he's actually been very underrated from ability to contribute early in the year. But without Embiid, I was watching that Heat game. It was bad. He's undisciplined defensively, fouling for no reason, inefficient offensively. So, yeah, I would lean towards Melton.
And Melton, I do think for moments has been a little overextended on what the expectations of him are, but he's a really solid player, a guy that has turned himself into a legitimately very good shooter. The defense is legit as far as getting in passing lanes, wrecking havoc. The way that he moves defensively, I think, is valuable on this team. So I would love it if they re-signed D'Anthony Melton this offseason. And depending on what those numbers look like, I think that it might end up being a key rotational piece for the foreseeable future.
All right. Buddy says, I'm getting some echo on my end for some reason. Anyway, Buddy's contract is going to be interesting. Embiid would have the first 200-point game if he played Wilt's level of YMCA competition. Melton for Mitch, and build around Ricky counts before. Nick, you are crushing the comments today. No doubt about it.
Let's wait. Let's wait for Ricky to play 20 minutes a game first. But great.
Let's throw it in reverse again. Biggest disappointment from the Sixers this season, Tiago.
So my disappointment, and I don't want to. I think the Sixers front office has done a very good job with the team. I think they've done a fantastic job pivoting away from James Harden. But I'm a little bit disappointed that they have not gone all in this year. And they're kind of still doing this cap plan into next year. I think that they have a player in Joel Embiid who is as dominant as ever been. And granted, the injury part played a calculus in it, but I think big picture, they should have really factored in the fact that there were guys available at the deadline. And in my opinion, they should have been harder on. Buddy being one of them, obviously, but I just think that potentially this could be their best shot at a championship. So I'm a little disappointed the Sixers calculus didn't quite include all that into the equation. So But again, I don't want to make this about the Sixers front office because I think they've done a great job as a whole. It's more about their free agent plan moving forward. That's really my disappointment.
Yeah. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I'm gonna go somewhat similar here. I'm gonna say the management of Joel Embiid this year has been my biggest disappointment. That we know the current situation, that these Sixers are waiting to see if and when he will step back on the court and return to this playoff run. But dating back before then, I was super frustrated with just the lack of plan for making sure this guy is healthy for the entirety of the season. I get the 65 game rule. I get that played a factor, but that Warriors game specifically, in which ultimately was the last time we saw him on the floor, he was not healthy leading up to that game, and he was not healthy for a single second on the floor during that game. To me, this falls more on the organization to have a plan, make sure that your superstar is not putting himself in harm's way, and they should have punted on that MVP award before him rushing to get out on the floor for that game. So I think regardless of if and when he comes back this year, there should be a more concrete plan moving forward where you're protecting this guy from himself in a way that I think the Sixers have failed to do. So for me, the biggest failure for the season falls on their management of Joel Embiid, and hopefully that he is able to return and they don't pay too steep of a price for it.
But it's not like we shouldn't expect it differently because Embiid or Nick Nurse has consistently played his starters a lot of minutes.
For sure. But my only pushback there is the guy that he hasn't was Kawhi Leonard, and that was the year that they won a championship with him limiting his game. So Joel Embiid fits a different category. He's not Fred VanVleet. He's not Kyle Lowry. He's not a guy that can go log you 40 minutes every single night. You got to take the pros and the cons of every player. The pros of Joel Embiid are pretty strong, but you have to know that you do have to manage him a little bit differently from just another star or just another guy. So that to me is super high up on my list of priorities moving forward.
Some comments real quick. Biggest disappointment is Roko's knee, Joel Embiid's health, that Tobias Harris is still here.
Yes.
Todd says the disappointment is the gift and curse of Embiid's injury. Quentin says agreed he should not have played in that Golden State game. Daryl Morey should quit his job with the Sixers, enjoying the Ringling Brothers circus.
I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that.
I don't know how the Sixers aren't sponsored by Penn Medicine. This team is always sick or something. Pat, what's your biggest disappointment?
I'm going to piggyback with Sean. It's true. I mean, the way that Joel Embiid went out this year. I mean, the fact that this guy was hobbling in that Golden State game, you were waiting for the shoe to drop. You're waiting for that accident to happen. You're waiting for him to get taken out of this game. I mean, it was just waiting. Again, this was just all waiting to happen, and unfortunately that it did. And the fact that the 76ers just put him in there just because they keep up with that MVP racing instead of trying to get this guy healthy, and instead of taking a couple of lumps, you're going to take a couple out. So what? And try and keep. You're just trying. I don't know if it was him that wanted to get in here so fast, or them just trying to keep him when to get that MVP title. I don't know what it is, but you did more harm than good. You didn't look at it, and it's hurt this guy's career. Now all of a sudden, we have to wait a month, and we don't know where this team is going to be exactly, because once you look at the second half of the schedule, and the early part of it anyway, you kind of run through a little bit of a gauntlet. You got to deal with the Knicks and Cleveland. You have to deal with the Bucks, and you got to deal with Boston. I mean, that's not an easy little stretch you got going on there. So I don't know what kind of shape this team's going to be in when he's healthy. I mean, I'm hoping that we're at the 8th seed by then. And we don't know what kind of shape he is going to be in. Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be? But I mean, like I said, he's got remarkable talent. I guess it's God-given talent that he has, and he can only do what he can do. And but yeah, that's for me is the most disappointing part, is that they just kind of rushed him in here at 23%, just a minute to go all down. So yeah, I gotta give that's got to be the most disappointing X factor within the whole entire team.
I'm muted. You're muted, Dives.
I'm back. Trying to figure out. Is anybody else getting some echo as well? I'm getting some echo. No? It just might be on my end. Franklin is definitely a disappointment. Need hip hop back as soon as possible.
Yes.
I'm with that.
Todd says the Sixers gave in to peer pressure. Quinn is disappointed that Maxey is a Cowboys fan. All right. So we're going to roll on to whether or not the Sixers are contenders here in 2024. I'll throw it to you, Pat. What are your thoughts? I'm going to leave and come back.
Okay, my thoughts in 2024. I think I got my hindsight looking in. I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to stay optimistic. I feel like the Joel Embiid will be back, though. I think he'll be back in a month time to save the season. Yeah, he won't be your MVP, but he'll bring you closer and closer to an MVP. Not MVP. He'll bring you to the NBA title, what you wanted, the long side, the big picture. You wanted. You got Buddy Hield, the shooter. He can distribute to him. He's got to be able to distribute to Maxey. He's going to make everyone around him so much more better. So, again, I just gave you the negatives about it. The positive is Joel Embiid is God-given talent, and again, you can't teach that. When he's on the floor, he's still the best basketball player on the court. Even in triple-double coverages, it doesn't matter. So that's going to be hindsight looking in. Is that he'll bring you when he's healthy. About a month time, he'll get you closer to an NBA title.
What about you, Sean?
Yeah, as far as just the overall outlook here, I do still think that they are contenders, and I do believe that Joel Embiid returning to the floor elevates everyone around him, that we're seeing the weaknesses that were covered up by Joel, but this is still probably the best fitting squad around him that we've seen. Even when you look back to that 2018-19 team, this team's more well-built around Joel Embiid, and this is a different Joel Embiid than that point in time. So I'm still pretty optimistic about this team. Health is always going to be that biggest asterisk that we will see when and if he comes back and what level he plays at when that is the case. But the bottom line is, if you want to look this through completely optimistic lenses, the best route to having him go through a healthy playoff run could be for him to get hurt when he got hurt, go through the recovery process, and then take off then. So I'm still holding out that bit of hope. Not the ideal circumstance or situation that led up to it, but I'm still pretty optimistic, and I do believe that this team has a chance this year.
Yeah. Tiago?
I guess the question I would have is, assuming Joel is back and he's healthy and he's playing, say, close to 90 to 95% of the way that he was before the injury, right? Now you get Buddy Hield and you have, a healthy platoon. The whole band is together, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the Sixers are a top 3 favorite to win an NBA title at that point, based on what you've seen from the league as a whole? And honestly, that's the question I ask myself, and I can see myself getting there, but I don't really emphatically say yes, like Boston and Denver, right?
Those are the two that I would say are in their own category here. But beyond that, in the Eastern Conference, you want to look, the Milwaukee Bucks don't scare me. That team has a ton of legitimate flaws, and we've seen the Doc Rivers experience. The Cleveland Cavaliers, second in the East right now, have been the hottest team in basketball, but the Sixers also just beat them shorthanded straight up a couple weeks ago, and I just don't buy them in a playoff setting. That I think they are ultimately going to be playoff failures and a team that stumbles. That Knicks team is tough.
Yeah.
Does Julius Randle strike that much fear into your heart that you're afraid of Julius Randle being one of their go-to guys there? So, each of these teams does have their flaws. The Heat have looked horrible this year. The Pacers, I don't trust them in a 7-game series at this stage. I like what they're doing, but I think they're still a year or two below. So, when I look at it like that, it's like the Sixers very much have a chance. And with Joel specifically, it's on a night-to-night basis. He's going to be the best player on the floor. So when you have that, when you have the chance for him to be healthy, the Celtics are the only team that I kind of concretely look at and think are head and shoulders better than the Sixers in the Eastern Conference at least. And if they're that close, to me, I say you're right in the mix and absolutely should have gone for it, maybe a little more than they did.
Yeah, we've seen that Boston team. I mean, they've beaten the Sixers on an annual basis, right? But you've seen that Boston team kind of unravel a little bit in postseason games and obviously NBA finals and so forth, but there's still a level to their play that falls apart primarily because Tatum and Brown see themselves as superstars and dominant NBA players. And that sometimes doesn't match the reality of actually their play. Tatum will actually win you a ton of games and drive wins, but Tatum will also shoot you out of games.
Yeah.
And sometimes in a 7-game series, that could be the deciding factor between you winning and losing a series. He almost literally lost Game 6 for Boston against the Sixers, and the Sixers kind of just handed him the game back to them. So, yeah, I do think that the Sixers with Embiid, adding Buddy Hield, I think they're in the conversation for an NBA championship. Absolutely. But I don't have much faith that Embiid is going to be that player coming back. There's just a lot of mounting evidence to suggest otherwise right now. So I need to see it. I need to see him on the court. I need to see how he's moving. I need to see his shape. I need to see his basketball fitness. All that has to really be answered. So,
yeah.
Mitch says, Pat, remember when Sixers fans wanted to trade Joel Embiid?
It'll happen again. Give it a couple weeks.
Yeah, just give it another. But here's the thing, though. Let me ask you a question, because I'm removing the fans who are just angry that Embiid didn't score 50 points and they want him traded. But at what point does the conversation around his health come into focus? And at what point do you flip it to, like, maybe we need to start looking at flipping him as a player and pivoting as a franchise? Again, it's really hard to ask that question because the guy is a dominant player. But the knee injury that he had a compounding injury to the meniscus, right? So he played on the meniscus and that became worse.
Yeah.
But the meniscus was a result of what? And is that just now a thing where it's going to be coming up? Maybe not the meniscus every year, but it's just his body's saying, I'm breaking down, right?
Yeah. Well, that's my issue with the management of it, is there's 3 other times prior to this injury of him being listed out with knee soreness, knee swelling, knee injury management. Like, it's the same thing. Like, he's been dealing with it.
Right.
But my takeaway and kind of pushback to that is, like, you know that, so deal with it a little better. Be the adults in the room. Like, look at what Jimmy Butler does on the Miami Heat. The dude just doesn't play in the regular season. He's here every other game, here when he feels like, and then he's ready come postseason time. Like, I think from the Sixers perspective, I don't think there's a world where you get better from trading Joel Embiid. That when you're looking for that top end talent. So to me, it's learn how to manage it a little better, set him up for success to have the best opportunity possible for a healthy playoff run. And that starts with having a better game plan for make sure he's not playing this back to back or not playing 3 games in 5 nights and stuff like that. That's what I want to see from the Sixers. And like, it's not perfect. Obviously, in an ideal world, he can suit up every night and play every night. But you know what? Like, every player has their flaws. If that's what Joel Embiid is, then that's what you got to address it and deal with it, I feel. So I get the frustration, but to me, it's like falls back on the organization to just deal with a little better rather than punting on the dude.
So, and you remember too, like right before that injury, again, they rushed him back here. They lost 4 straight. And that's what happened. They rushed him trying to salvage the season. I guess they thought trying to keep, and like I said, I don't know if it's partially him behind the scenes want to be that MVP, or that it was just, the front management just concerned about, oh, well, no, he's not that hurt. And then he's wibble wobbling on the floor because people want, the crazy people saying they want to get rid of him. And oh, look, he's okay. And the guy was showing he was clearly not. He had a bad wheel. And like I said, you were just waiting for the car accident to happen at that point. And when it did, now you just made things from bad to worse. And now, who knows? We're, like you said, with Sean and guys, we're all thinking optimistically, this is going to pan out it's going to be like a happy ending. And we don't know. Mm-hmm. You don't know.
Yeah, I'm completely agree with everything you guys are saying. Sean, the organization is a shit show when it comes to injuries. It's been over a decade of this. So it's not just this year, not just last year. It's been ever since Embiid put foot in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
you as a player have to take ownership of your health to some extent. And the idea that I'm going to trust the Philly medical professionals is, in my perspective, a bit immature on Joel Embiid's part. Again, I'm not putting this on him. He has professionals that advise him whether he should play or not, and these professionals should be acting in the best interest of the player at all times. But it's been 10 years, dude. Like, you need to own up to your health. And if you're not feeling it, you tell them, I'm not playing. Like Sean said, Jimmy Butler. Like, Jimmy Butler is probably not waiting for people in the background telling him he should play. He's like, I'm not playing today. And there's part of that's Joel Embiid listening to the narrative, right? The MVP narrative, that you're ducking tough competition. He came back immediately after the Denver game. So I just think there is a level of maturity still that he needs to hit, that he can go up and be like, I'm not playing. I'm not putting my health at risk, no matter what you guys say, period.
And to speak on like what that process is with Joel on a night-to-night basis, it's like a collaborative decision between Embiid and the medical staff that he goes through his warm-up routine. He sees how he feels. The training staff looks at a couple of measurements they're looking for as far as him jumping, things like that. But to me, like it continues to circle back to as the organization, with Joel Embiid being the face of it, your best option. It's on you to be the adults in the room here. I get it. Like in an ideal world, again, I kind of like feel bad from the Joel side of things. I think he gets it both ways, that he's looked at as soft when he doesn't play. And then when he does play and tries to play through things, people call him stupid or selfish, that he just wants to get to 65 games, all these things. So it is frustrating that the narrative absolutely got to him, that all these kind of conversations, but also from like a Sixers perspective, like if we just want to look at that individual week in which he did sustain this injury, started with the Denver game in which there was no mention of Joel Embiid on the injury report at any point, and then he was pulled 15 minutes before the game, making him look horrible on the national stage, getting him set up for failure. Like, if you think there's a 1% chance he doesn't play on the game, just throw him on the injury report. Like, there's zero harm in that. And then for him to miss that game, miss the next game, and then play in the Warriors game in which he clearly was not healthy, and then him suffer the injury from there, you then made him look bad on the national stage, then put him in harm's way in a way that everyone is paying the price for. So it's just an organizational malpractice with the whole management of that. I agree. The track record doesn't suggest that this is a one-time thing and it will be fixed, but like they just have to find a way to hammer that out and fix that.
And another thing too, I mean, you said it too, Sean. I mean, you said management. Like it is probably looking at it as the NBA saying, "Look, we're getting tired of hearing about load management. Listen, if you're 90% go, then go." You know what I mean? And he clearly wasn't. Like this guy really has some health issues going on, and they just fed him to the fire, and he just wanted him to get burnt now. Like I feel like it's the league just getting tired of hearing guys talk about load management when, like I said, the dude was just really clearly he was banged up.
The MVP thing is absolutely absurd. I cannot fathom they're going to bring that rule back next year. Yeah. The minimum games played, that is absolutely absurd. I mean, I'm sorry. I understand you're trying to put a bar to this, but having players think about coming back injured for this award is insane. Like absolutely insane. It's against everything that the league should stand for.
The better example of it for me is what's happening with Tyrese Halliburton with the All-NBA conversations. For Halliburton, who's still a young player, getting that big contract, it's like a $40 million difference on if he hits the 65 number and makes All-NBA, which he's absolutely on track for. The past few weeks, he's literally been playing the bare minimum 20 minutes per game and then sitting out the rest as he's still battling the hamstring injury. That's just not at all what we want to reward or encourage by any means. And it's bad for everyone in this case that the Pacers are struggling because he's like forcing himself out there, not fully healthy, not good from Halliburton from the long-term standpoint. And then obviously league-wise, like this is just not at all what you should be encouraging. So definitely some tweaks needed. And I would be very happy if that rule is removed.
Yep. All right, let's roll on to some comments and we'll wrap it up. Quentin asks, what's the starting lineup assuming the Sixers finally get healthy? Any thoughts on that, Tiago?
I mean, my starting lineup would be something starting with Embiid, Batum, Maxey. I'll say my closing lineup: Embiid, Batum, Maxey. Then I would consider Tobias, Melton, and Buddy. But I would play it by matchup. I mean, depending what I need at that moment, I would know. Utah does a lot of that. They really play by matchup, by situations. The Sixers just roll out the same back and forth. But that would be what I would kind of start with. Isn't mine. Not
KJ Martin? No. I don't know why he was in the game. That last one, but anyway, let's roll on to some more comments. Nick says Embiid isn't coming back. Sean just doesn't want to believe it. Nick is looking at the Celtics, the Knicks, the Cavs, the Clippers, the Nuggets, and Lakers. I think are his like contenders. I would imagine.
Get the Lakers out of there. And Cavs.
Well, you're not buying the Cavs. I don't buy the Cavs either. I do buy the Knicks, though. I do buy the Knicks. I'm
with you there.
I think Knicks would be an issue for the Sixers for a very long time.
Yeah.
William says the Doc Rivers experience is just heartburn. If Doc eliminates us, that would suck big time. That has to happen, right? The Sixers have to play the Bucks in the playoffs. That's
all-time legacy game there.
All time. All time. Nick says seeing Doc come out for all-star practice yesterday as that coach felt wrong in every way.
Adrian
not
Griffin,
wrong.
coach of the year.
His excuses after games are becoming legendary. There's a whole thread on this stuff now.
Unbelievable.
The jig is up, Doc. People are caught up to the jig.
There was a video that I posted, not I posted, but someone else did, about all the mistakes about the Bucks offense with Doc. It's amazing. The guy just kills. Like, yeah, just like Tiago said, the gig is up. William says the trade deadline perception would be different if the Bulls did not pull out on the Andre Drummond deal. Any thoughts on that? I was okay with the trade deadline, other than Jaden Springer. I kind of foresaw kind of the moves he made, so I was actually kind of good with it. Anybody else?
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad to have Drummond. That he was good when he was here. I do think people have I guess, a perception of him that he was a little better than I think he was in actuality. That I was very happy with Andre Drummond while we were here, but he's also a guy that to me is pretty unplayable in the playoffs, and we didn't get to that point with Andre Drummond on the roster. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for Paul Reed to be getting extra reps now, have some time, see what he turns into, and at least give him a chance this season. It would have been nice to have Drummond as an option and a guy that you can start on a nightly basis to kind of split time for the nights where Paul Reed doesn't have it. But ultimately, still view the trade deadline pretty positively, and especially now that we've seen a little bit of Buddy Hield and seen how things have played out with Ricky Collins getting an opportunity that Jaden Springer, I think, kind of paved the way for in that. So I think now that we can look back on it, I feel pretty positive, and even more than I did at the time.
Yeah.
On that note, trading Jaden Springer to the Boston Celtics is borderline malpractice. I'm going to put that out there. And I know people's opinion of Jaden Springer ranges from great to unplayable. I don't think there's many people can deny his defensive impact on the court is real. And when a team like Boston plucks your player, that's a red flag. That is a red flag. That should raise alarm bells that they are seeing something that you're not. And I will always put Boston's player development program ahead of the Sixers, at least in the recent memories. So I'm just interested to see how that's going to turn out. I think Boston saw something there that Maury's calculator couldn't put it together. So we'll see.
John says, my biggest disappointment has been the communication with our injured players. No clear indication on what injury Joel had, and Melton being out for this long with no real updates.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great comment. Joel is going to be criticized no matter what until he does something in the playoffs, even if he won 10 MVPs.
He's always been criticized. LeBron James is criticized. He's always going to be criticized. That's what happens with great players. He's got to put that aside. You think LeBron cares what the people think about his legacy? He would care less. He does his thing. So that's Joel just to follow that thread, and he's fine.
Prince says, if we somehow get eliminated by Glenn, save my sheesh. Oh my God, I might be done with basketball if that happens. That just cannot happen. Especially, could you imagine, it's destiny, man. Can you imagine the Sixers are up 3-1 on the Bucks, and Doc Rivers leads the Bucks back, and they beat the Sixers in 7 games? Could you imagine that?
No.
I might have a worse scenario. What if they get to the championship and they got to face the Clippers in some way? Just Harden goes off. The Grinch goes off on us. I think I would vomit for years.
He's playing well, man. He is playing well.
He is. That's the scary part.
I don't know. I don't hate James Harden.
Honestly, the Doc one I think would hurt me worse. If they lose to Doc, I think that might the Clippers team, at least they still got Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Norman Powell, Ty Lue. It's a good squad there. If this Bucks team beats us, man, with Doc Rivers leading the charge, it's one of those I don't know if I could swallow that. That to me would be way more painful, I think.
I want the Sixers to blow out the Bucks with and Doc Rivers in the fourth quarter sitting on the Bucks bench, waving his hands. Oh,
yeah. Pat Beverly.
I want that so bad.
What's going on, guys? I don't know. Figure it out. You're the coach, dude.
Michael says, I think Embiid comes back. The Sixers are the 6, 7, or 8 seed. I think it wouldn't be that bad as which team 1 through 3 would want to face a healthy Sixers team in the first round. I don't think it matters who they play. If they're fully healthy, man, I like their odds. Prince would love B-Well Paul to continue working on his mid-range game. At times, that thing looks automatic. Quentin says any deal with Boston should put you on an alert. And Prince says I'd rather lose to James than Glenn. Okay.
I agree.
Michael says LeBron does care about one thing that people think about him, and that is being the GOAT, as he will never be the GOAT, and that sits in his, I guess, head.
Man, LeBron hate on the chat. This is gone haywire. He went from Tobias to LeBron in an hour.
Yeah. Mr. Kaepernick has a list of athletes and coaches he don't like, and LeBron's on.
He's on them. Good.
All right, guys, let's wrap this thing up. We're an hour into this thing. Tiago, I'll throw it to you, man. Final thoughts on the Sixers post All-Star break or playoff chances, plugs, time's yours.
Nah, I'm excited to watch Tobias Harris tonight, dressing up for the Eastern reserves. Nah, I'm excited. The team is a good team, man. I think you just got it. We're going through the wave here of just a lot of – my dog just has a lot of Tobias thoughts as well in the background. We're going through the wave here of just, knowing Embiid and getting the new roster put in place, but you see the pieces coming together. And you can always tune in the Sixers to watch, Buddy Hield do something different, Tyrese to do his thing. So it's a fun group to watch. It's been a long time coming. So, yeah, definitely. Those are my thoughts.
All right. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I'm still optimistic about the second half of the season. So feeling good about this Sixers team. And then as far as plugs, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Sean_Bernard1. Check me out on Fox Sports The Gambler. We did a roundtable with RB, Sean Brace, and myself. Had a couple guests roll through, Devon Givens, a couple other guys popping on the stream as well. So it was a good time. That you can check the replay of that on the Fox Sports The Gambler socials, as well as the YouTube channel there. And then make sure to check out Sixers Digest as well. That'll have a video coming out later today talking about the Pat Bev comments a little bit about the Sixers. So dive into that a little bit. And check out Pick Swap Media as well on all platforms.
All right, guys. And last but not least, Pat.
No, I'm excited to get back to work and see what the 76ers are going to look like. Like I said, especially in this little tough stretch that they're about to have. Tell me exactly where they're at, and if they, what comes. Hopefully, as I said, being optimistic to see if Joel Embiid can come back and kind of put this team on his back and get us through to the promised land. Let's think big picture. Let's stay positive, and let's just hope for the best. So, but regardless, the addition of Buddy Hield, I'm continuing to see if he could, continue to shoot the lights out from the perimeter. I'm hoping Cameron Payne can start, get a little better with the shooting. And, let's go Sixers. So, again, you guys can catch me tonight right here on Edge of Play Sports talking Wings lacrosse. You guys know covering Wings, Union Soccer. Catch me this morning, PM and AM. If you guys didn't miss it, talked about it. Whether or not if Andy Reid is the GOAT. So, guys, you guys have a great one and enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. What's the best place to get a cheesesteak in Philadelphia? I have a few.
That's such a polarizing topic. I would never answer that. I'll let you guys answer that. You guys know.
I got it. John's Roast Pork, Angelo's, and Jim's. Those are like my top three. Period.
I know Delos Andres is a hot spot, but I'll say you walk right across the street and hit Chubby's is a spot over there as well.
Yeah.
Love it. Michael says, good show, fellas. Quinn says you can also follow the GOAT at Tobias31. Maxey. I was a little upset that Maxey wasn't in that 3-point contest.
Me too.
I
don't know what happened with that either.
They didn't say anything. I didn't even know about it. I didn't know about the change until yesterday.
Yeah, same here. I was checking like all the participants, and there was no mention of Maxey. But like I remember specifically like Chris Haynes tweeting out that he would participate, and Maxey even acknowledged it this week with the press, talking about how he's practicing shooting off the Iraq and everything. So I don't know what happened there.
I don't know. Well, get back to that cheesesteak comment. You gotta go to Pat's, you gotta go to Del Sandro's, and you gotta go to a spot up here in North Hill called Alex's. But Sean's car outweighs it all because he's right by Shady Maple. If you're right by Shady Maple, it's it's like $13. Go there for breakfast, and that's all you need. That's all you need.
Nice.
That's like 20 minutes from me. So.
Oh my God, I would look like Mike Laro by now if I wasn't there.
All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for watching. One more time, give Pat a follow on X at Pat from Ambler, Sean at Sean_Bernard1, and then Tiago at Tiago PHL. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Thursday for postgame. For Tiago, for Sean, for Pat, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.